Elara lived in a village spun from starlight and silence, a place known to its people as Whisperwind. Not because the wind whispered secrets through its narrow lanes, but because the very air hummed with a soft, constant magic that felt like a quiet conversation between the world and its inhabitants. Every house in Whisperwind was built not of rough-hewn stone or timber, but of woven light, luminous threads drawn from the moon's first quarter and the dawn's last blush, then solidified by ancient spells. They glowed softly from within, casting a perpetual, gentle twilight that made the village feel like a warm, breathing lantern nestled in the heart of the Eldoria Valley. Elara herself was a weaver, like most in Whisperwind. But where others crafted tapestries that told tales of heroes or depicted the shifting seasons, Elara's hands spun dreams. Her specialty was the creation of memory shawls, garments so finely woven that they seemed to hold the echoes of forgotten moments, shimmering with the emotions of those who wore them. Each thread was infused with a fragment of memory, a whisper of a forgotten laugh, a glint of a tear, a warmth of a shared embrace, all carefully sourced from the gentle magic that permeated the valley. She collected these ethereal essences not from living beings, for that would be intrusive, but from places where strong emotions had once lingered. The mossy stone of an ancient hearth, the sun-drenched bough of a centuries-old oak, the smooth surface of a river stone worn by countless currents. She would sit, her eyes closed, her fingers tracing the air, until a faint shimmer or a subtle hum guided her to the perfect resonant spot. Then, with a silver thimble and a needle spun from solidified moonlight, she would carefully draw out the essence, a tiny mote of concentrated feeling, and wind it onto a spindle of raw starlight. Her home was a small round cottage at the edge of Whisperwind, where the village's soft glow bled into the deeper shadows of the whispering woods. It was a place of quiet industry, filled with the gentle clacky of her loom, the rustle of raw starlight threads, and the faint, sweet scent of dried moon-petal flowers she used to scent her finished pieces. Elara was not one for boisterous laughter or grand pronouncements. She moved with a quiet grace, her hands always busy, her grey eyes, the color of twilight mist, always observant. She saw the minute shifts in the patterns of light on her loom, felt the subtle changes in the valley's magical currents, and heard the unheard melodies in the wind. This sensitivity, her grandmother used to say, was both a gift and a burden. One evening, as the twin moons of Eridor, Lumina and Nocturna, began their slow ascent over the jagged peaks of the Dragon's Teeth Mountains, Elara was working on a particularly intricate memory shawl. It was for old Master Fennel, whose memories of his long-lost love had begun to fade like morning mist. She was trying to capture the feeling of a shared sunrise, a moment of profound joy and quiet companionship. As she wove a strand of captured dawn light through a delicate warp of sky-spun silk, she felt it. A tremor. Unwind. Hut. Not in the earth, not in her small cottage, but in the very fabric of the magic that held Whisperwind together. It was subtle at first, like a single thread snapping in a vast tapestry. The light emanating from her woven walls flickered, barely perceptible, like a heartbeat skipping. The constant, soft hum of the valley's magic seemed to falter. A momentary silence in a familiar song. Elara's fingers paused mid-weave. Her loom, usually a rhythmic extension of her own quiet energy, felt cold, inert. She looked up, her sensitive eyes scanning her surroundings. The air felt thinner, the familiar scent of moon petals fainter. She stepped outside, her bare feet sinking slightly into the luminous moss that carpeted her path. The village, usually a beacon of soft internal light, seemed dimmer. The gentle glow from her neighbors' homes was subdued, flickering with an unsettling irregularity. The sky, usually a canvas of swirling nebulae and distant, glittering constellations visible even through the magical atmosphere, seemed muted, as if a thin veil had been drawn over the cosmos. Lumina, the larger pearlescent moon, usually cast long silver shadows. Tonight, her light seemed thin, watery, struggling to break through. A shiver, not of cold but of unease, traced its way down Elara's spine. She had never known the magic of Whisperwind to waver. It was as constant as the breath in her lungs, the beat of her heart. It was the very essence of their existence, the source of their homes, their crafts, their way of life. For it to falter, even for a moment, was like the world itself holding its breath. She looked towards the whispering woods, their ancient canopy usually a deep, comforting shadow against the sky. Tonight they seemed darker, more formidable, their silence less peaceful and more watchful. A faint, almost imperceptible shimmer caught her eye, deep within the trees, where the oldest and most gnarled oaks stood like silent sentinels. It was a light unlike any she had seen before, not the soft, golden glow of moonbeams filtering through leaves, nor the ethereal blue of glow moss. This light was pure, incandescent, yet strangely gentle, like a whisper of concentrated starlight. It pulsed with a rhythm that seemed to echo the unsettling tremor she had felt within the valley's magic. Drawn by an instinct she couldn't explain, a feeling like a magnetic pull in her very bones, Elara slipped into the woods. She moved silently, her light-spun tunic rustling no more than a falling leaf. The familiar path, usually a gentle slope carpeted with phosphorescent fungi, felt different tonight. The air grew cooler, carrying the scent of damp earth and ancient wood. The usual whispers of the woods, the rustle of night creatures, the soft murmur of the wind through the leaves, were absent. An unnatural stillness had fallen. As she ventured deeper, the faint shimmer grew stronger, drawing her further from the familiar paths, towards a part of the woods she had never dared to explore. This was the domain of the great old ones, the oldest trees in Eldoria, whose roots were said to reach into the very heart of the world, whose branches touched the stars. Legends spoke of strange magic and ancient spirits residing here, benevolent but intensely private. The light pulsed with increasing intensity, a soft, inviting beacon in the deepening gloom. It led her to a clearing, a place of profound stillness where the trees grew in a perfect circle, their ancient, gnarled branches intertwining to form a natural cathedral. In the very center of this clearing, where the earth was covered in velvety, unblemished moss, it lay. It wasn't a stream, though it flowed with a liquid light. It wasn't a thread, though it was impossibly fine. It was, the shimmering stranding out. It was a single, impossibly delicate filament of pure, concentrated light, stretched taut across the clearing. It glowed with an internal luminescence that defied description, shimmering with all the colors of the dawn and dusk, the deep blues of midnight, and the fiery reds of a distant nebula, all interwoven into a single, flowing spectrum. It hovered perhaps an inch above the moss, extending in a straight, unwavering line from one side of the clearing to the other, disappearing into the shadows beneath the ancient trees. Elara gasped, a silent breath stolen from the hushed air. It was unlike anything she had ever seen, more beautiful and more profound than any tapestry she could ever weave. The light it emitted was not harsh or blinding, but soft and inviting, radiating a warmth that chased away the chill of the forest. It pulsed gently, a slow, steady thrum that reverberated not just in the air, but deep within her chest, a melody that felt both ancient and newly born. She approached cautiously, her heart thrumming in harmony with the strand's beat. As she neared, she saw that it was not merely light, but a multitude of impossibly fine threads, each one a different color, a different intensity, woven together into this single cohesive filament. They twisted and turned, flowed and merged, creating an ever-shifting dance of pure energy. It looked like a river of condensed starlight, a single vein of cosmic light running through the heart of Eldoria. As her hand, trembling slightly, reached out towards it, the strand responded. A faint, almost imperceptible ripple ran along its length, and the colors intensified, swirling into a kaleidoscope of luminous beauty. A soft musical chime, like the whisper of wind through crystal bells, emanated from it, filling the clearing with an ethereal melody. It wasn't a sound heard with her ears, but felt in her soul. Then, for a fleeting moment, an image bloomed within the strand's light. It was a vision, shimmering and transient, like a reflection in water. She saw a vast, swirling expanse of stars, then a green, vibrant world, then a shadowy, reaching darkness that seemed to grasp at the edges of the light. It was gone as quickly as it appeared, leaving behind only the steady, pulsating glow and the resonant hum. Elara felt an overwhelming sense of awe, but also a profound sadness. The strand, despite its immense power and beauty, felt vulnerable, as if its light, so brilliant, was also somehow delicate, threatened. The tremor in the valley's magic, the subdued light of Whisperwind, it was all connected to this. This wasn't merely a magical artifact, it felt like the very heartbeat of their world. She knew with the certainty that often accompanies profound discovery, that she couldn't keep this to herself. This was something far beyond her understanding, something that demanded the wisdom of those who had lived for centuries, who remembered the old songs and the ancient truths. Carefully, reverently, Elara withdrew her hand and turned, retracing her steps through the now strangely silent woods. The path back to Whisperwind seemed longer, the air heavier with the weight of her discovery. The shimmering strand pulsed behind her, its light a memory burned into her mind, its hum a melody that now echoed in her heart. She found Elder Lyra in the weaving hall, a grand, open-sided structure where the village's communal looms stood silent and dark tonight. Lyra, her face a road map of gentle wrinkles, her hair spun from pure moonlight, sat hunched over a loom, but her hands were still. The light from her own home, usually a steady, comforting beacon, flickered sporadically. She was not weaving, she was simply watching the empty loom, her ancient eyes clouded with a deep concern. "Elder Lyra," Elara whispered, her voice barely audible. Lyra looked up, her gaze piercing despite her age. A flicker of recognition, or perhaps ancient knowledge, crossed her features as she saw the breathless urgency in Elara's eyes. "Elara, child, you felt it too then?" The sigh of the world, the faltering of the breath. Elara nodded, then poured out her story, the words tumbling over each other in her haste. She described the tremor, the fading light, her journey into the woods, and finally, the radiant, pulsing beauty of the shimmering strand. She spoke of its impossible light, its ethereal hum, the fleeting vision she had seen within its depths, and the profound sense of its vulnerability. Lyra listened, her expression growing graver with each word. When Elara finished, a long silence hung between them, broken only by the distant, irregular flickering of the village lights. Finally, Lyra reached out a hand, her touch surprisingly firm, and took Elara's. "The shimmering strand," she murmured, her voice laced with reverence and a touch of sorrow. "The legends speak of it, though few believed it was anything more than a myth, a bedtime story for young weavers." She closed her eyes, her brow furrowed in thought. "It is said that in the time before time, when the world was new and raw, the great weaver, the cosmos itself, drew forth a single luminous thread from the heart of creation. This thread, the first and most vital, was woven into the fabric of reality. It is the lifeblood of magic, the conduit through which all power flows, the very anchor that holds our world, Eridor, in its place amongst the stars." Lyra opened her eyes, their ancient depths filled with a renewed light. "It is the source of Whisperwind's magic, Elara, the light we draw upon for our homes, for our tapestries, for the very breath of this valley. It all originates from the shimmering strand. It is why our magic is gentle, never forceful, for we are merely borrowing its light, not bending it to our will." "But why is it here? Why now?" Elara asked, a knot of dread tightening in her stomach. "And why does it feel so fragile?" "Because," Lyra said, her voice dropping to a whisper, "the strand is not merely a source, it is also a reflection. A reflection of the balance of magic in the world. For generations the flow has been steady, the magic strong, but the legends also speak of a time when the strand would weaken, when its light would dim, when the very fabric of reality would begin to unravel." She paused, her gaze distant, as if looking into the past or the future. "The vision you saw, Elara, the shadowy darkness, that is the threat. Something stirs beyond the veil, something that seeks to sever the strand, to plunge our world into an age of true darkness, where magic withers and dies." Elara felt a cold dread spread through her. "What can be done? Can we weave it stronger?" Lyra shook her head slowly. "No, child. The strand cannot be woven by mortal hands, no matter how skilled. It is older than all of us, older than our world. But the legends also speak of a shade seer, one who would be drawn to the strand in its time of need, one whose heart resonated with its light, one who could follow its path and perhaps, mend the tears in its light." Lyra's gaze fixed on Elara, intense and unwavering. "You, Elara, you felt its call, you saw its light, you are the shade seer, the one destined to find the shimmering strand and understand its sorrow." Elara recoiled slightly. "Me? But I'm just a weaver. I've never left Whisperwind. I know nothing of the wider world or of battling shadows." Her hands, usually so steady and skilled, felt suddenly clumsy and useless. "The greatest journeys are often undertaken by those who believe themselves least capable," Lyra said gently. "Your sensitivity, your ability to feel the echoes of memory, to weave light into form, these are not weaknesses, but strengths. The strand chose you, Ilara. It showed you its vulnerability, and it showed you the shadow." Lyra rose, her movements slow but deliberate. She walked to a hidden alcove in the wall, pulling aside a tapestry woven with ancient symbols. Behind it, a small leather-bound satchel lay nestled. "The strand does not merely exist, it flows. It is a path, a current of magic that winds through our world and beyond. It will show you the way, Ilara. You must follow its light, understand its song, and discover what threatens it." She handed Ilara the satchel. It was surprisingly light, yet felt imbued with an ancient power. "This satchel is woven from starhide, impervious to most magics and elements. Inside you will find dried moonberries for sustenance, a map of the known lands, though the strand may lead you beyond them, and a small phial of concentrated starlight. It will glow faintly when the strand's light is near, and serve as a beacon if you ever lose your way in true darkness." Ilara looked at the satchel, then back at Lyra, a whirlwind of fear and wonder churning within her. The thought of leaving Whisperwind, of venturing into the unknown, was terrifying. But the image of the shimmering strand, so beautiful, so vulnerable, was burned into her mind. The fading magic, the silent loom, the dimming light of her home, she couldn't ignore it. I will go," she said, her voice gaining a strength she didn't know she possessed. "I will follow the strand." A faint smile touched Lyra's lips. "Good, child. The path will be long and likely perilous, but you carry the heart of Whisperwind with you, and the light of the strand in your soul. Listen to its hum, Ilara. It will guide you." Ilara spent the rest of the night preparing. She packed her finest weaving needles, a spool of her strongest light-spun thread, and a small, cherished stone from the riverbank that always hummed with gentle memories. She said quiet goodbyes to her empty cottage, to her silent loom, to the familiar, comforting glow of Whisperwind. The villagers, deep in their magically dimmed sleep, would not know she was gone until morning. Just before dawn, as Lumina began its descent and Nocturna offered its last fading glow, Ilara stood at the edge of the Whispering Woods. The air was cool, fresh. The faint shimmering light of the strand was visible once more, a beckoning finger of pure magic winding deeper into the forest, beyond the familiar, into the vast unknown world beyond Whisperwind. It pulsed with a steady rhythmic beat, like a heart calling her home. Taking a deep breath, Ilara stepped forward, leaving behind the comforting twilight of her village, and stepping into the deeper, grander mystery of the world. She followed the shimmering strand, its ethereal glow her only guide, its silent hum her only companion, as it led her further and further towards a destiny woven not by her hands, but by the very fabric of magic itself. The journey had just begun. The journey had just begun. The shimmering strand, a ribbon of woven moonlight and starlight, stretched before Ilara, a luminous path through the deepening twilight. The air grew cooler, carrying the scent of damp earth and unfamiliar blossoms. The familiar silhouettes of Whisperwind's ancient oak trees faded behind her, replaced by towering, skeletal giants whose branches clawed at the indigo sky. The ground beneath her feet, once a soft carpet of pine needles, became a tapestry of mosses and gnarled roots, each step carrying her deeper into the wild heart of the world. The rhythmic pulse, that distant, steadfast beat, grew ever so slightly stronger. It was no longer just a faint thrum in the air. Ilara felt it now, a subtle vibration within her own chest, synchronizing with her heartbeat. It was a comforting presence, an invisible hand urging her onward, a promise of something profound awaiting her. As the last vestiges of twilight surrendered to the velvet embrace of night, the shimmering strand brightened, casting a soft ethereal glow on her immediate surroundings. She found herself in a forest unlike any she had ever known. The trees here were not merely green and brown. Their bark shimmered with iridescence, like the scales of ancient dragons, and their leaves, instead of rustling, whispered melodic secrets in a language she almost, but not quite understood. Phosphorescent fungi bloomed in vibrant hues of sapphire and emerald along the forest floor, illuminating pathways that twisted and turned like forgotten dreams. A delicate bell-like chime echoed through the stillness. Elara paused, her hand instinctively going to the simple leather pouch at her hip where she kept her few precious belongings. The sound was not menacing but rather playful, like distant laughter carried on a breeze. A moment later, a swirl of silvery mist coalesced before her, forming into tiny translucent figures no bigger than her thumb. They had wispy wings like dragonflies and eyes that sparkled with mischievous light. These were the Whisperwind sprites, creatures of pure moon mist and starlight, rarely seen so far from the village's edge. They flitted around her, their chimes growing more insistent, tugging gently at the hem of her tunic, trying to divert her from the shimmering strand. One even mimicked the faint pulse she felt, its tiny form vibrating with a miniature rhythm, attempting to lure her down a branching path that shimmered with an illusory glow. "No," Elara whispered, her voice surprisingly steady. "I must follow the strand." She remembered the elder's words. "Trust your path, Elara. The true guide will never lead you astray." Sprites, though enchanting, felt like a delightful distraction. She focused on the strand's unwavering luminescence, on its silent, steadfast hum that resonated deep within her. It was a subtle difference, but the sprite's mimicry lacked the profound, resonant depth of the true pulse. With a sigh that seemed to carry the scent of dew-kissed petals, the sprites eventually gave up, dissolving back into the shimmering mist, leaving behind only the lingering scent of honeysuckle and a faint echo of their chimes. Elara smiled, a flicker of quiet confidence blooming within her. She had faced her first small test, and her resolve had held firm. She continued deeper, the forest transitioning again. The iridescent trees gave way to a grove of ancient colossal sentinels, their trunks wider than her small cottage, their canopies so dense that only slivers of starlight pierced through, creating shifting patterns on the forest floor like scattered diamonds. Here, the air grew thick with a sense of immense age and power. The pulsating beat was undeniably stronger, vibrating through the very roots beneath her feet. Suddenly, the shimmering strand branched. One path continued straight, a vibrant, unwavering line. The other veered sharply to the left, glowing with a softer, almost hesitant light. Confusion furrowed Elara's brow. Which way? The elder hadn't mentioned a split. She looked back and forth, her heart thrumming with uncertainty. As she hesitated, a low, rumbling groan echoed from the deepest shadows of the colossal trees. Not a sound of malice, but of deep, ancient weariness. A gnarled root as thick as her waist slowly uncoiled from the earth, reaching out towards the softer leftward path. Its movement was slow, deliberate, almost like an ancient finger pointing. Elara gasped, her eyes wide. A whisper, like rustling leaves in a forgotten breeze, snaked into her mind. "To heart of the wood, lies, leftward, youngling." Whoa. She peered into the gloom, trying to discern the source of the voice. A vast moss-covered trunk, far larger than any other, seemed to sigh, its bark twisting into what looked like a weathered, benevolent face. Its eyes, deep hollows filled with ancient starlight, regarded her with timeless wisdom. This was no ordinary tree. This was a forest elder, a being of immense age and magic. "The heart of the wood," Elara whispered, her voice barely audible. The whisper returned, softer now, accompanied by the gentle sway of unseen branches. "Chaya, straight, is for those who seek the quickening. The path, leftward, for those who seek understanding before purpose." Elara considered this. The quickening sounded urgent, perhaps even dangerous. Understanding before purpose, however, resonated with her. She wanted to know and why she was being called, what this pulsing beat truly meant. She wanted to understand the magic, not just blindly rush towards it. "I choose the left path," she declared, her voice firmer this time. The ancient tree seemed to nod, a shower of luminescent moss flakes drifting from its branches. Another whisper, this one clearer, filled her mind. "You have chosen wisely, little seeker. The heart of the wood will show you whispers of what is to come, But heed this. The mire will test your spirit. Trust the silent song within. As the voice faded, the gnarled root slowly retracted, settling back into the earth. Elara felt a profound sense of gratitude and wonder. She bowed respectfully to the ancient tree, then turned and followed the leftward branch of the shimmering strand, its light now feeling even more purposeful. The path led her into a section of the forest where the ground grew soft and spongy. The air became heavy with moisture, carrying the sweet, cloying scent of night-blooming water lilies. Soon, the trees thinned, giving way to a vast, shimmering expanse of water, dotted with islands of tangled roots and moss. This was the Whispering Mire. Mist, thick and pearlescent, clung to the surface of the water, swirling and dancing with an otherworldly grace. The shimmering strand, rather than sinking, skimmed across the surface of the mire, creating a luminous, stable bridge of light. The pulsating beat grew stronger here, resonating deep within the water itself, making the mist tremble. As Elara stepped onto the strand bridge, the mist began to coalesce around her, much like the sprites, but these formations were different. They weren't playful, they were reflective. Shapes began to form in the swirling vapor, images from her past. First, her grandmother's kind, weary face, smiling at her from the cottage door. Then the familiar stone steps of Whisperwind, the scent of fresh-baked bread from the village bakery. These were not malicious illusions, but rather invitations to linger, to return to the comfort of what she knew. "You go back, Elara," a soft melodic voice seemed to murmur from the mist. "The world beyond is vast and lonely. Your home awaits." I heard signs. A pang of longing pierced her heart. She missed her village, its simple rhythms, its familiar faces. Her steps faltered. She looked back, and for a moment, saw the distant, twinkling lights of Whisperwind beckoning her. The shimmering strand, however, remained resolute, its light unwavering, stretching forward into the heart of the mire. And beneath it all, the steady, rhythmic pulse continued, calling her deeper. Trust the silent song within. The elder's words echoed in her mind. The silent song, the pulse. It was not a voice, but a feeling, a deep-seated knowing that this journey was right, that it was hers to make. Elara took a deep breath, letting the sweet, heavy air fill her lungs. She closed her eyes for a moment, focusing entirely on the internal rhythm, on the gentle vibration in her chest. When she opened them again, the illusory lights of Whisperwind shimmered and faded. The mirage of her grandmother dissolved. The mist, though still swirling, no longer held such powerful allure. "I cannot go back," she said aloud, her voice clear and strong, cutting through the murmuring mist. "My path is forward." With renewed determination, she continued her walk across the shimmering strand. The mist, as if acknowledging her resolve, parted before her, revealing glimpses of the mire's true nature. Strange bioluminescent fish with fins like gossamer wings swam beneath the strand, their gentle glows adding to the ethereal beauty. Water lilies, larger than any she had ever seen, pulsed with their own soft light, their petals slowly opening and closing in time with the deep rhythmic beat. The further she went, the more the mist receded, until she found herself walking across a clear, crystalline lake. The shimmering strand now seemed to be woven from pure light, suspended just above the water's surface. Below her, the lake depths glowed with a soft, inviting radiance, hinting at untold mysteries. The pulsating beat was now a vibrant, undeniable presence, a deep, resonant thrum that filled the air, the water, and Elara herself. It was no longer just a beat. It felt like a living, breathing entity, a heart beating beneath the world. Ahead, rising majestically from the center of the lake, was an island. But it was no ordinary island. It was a single, colossal tree, far grander than any of the forest elders she had seen. Its trunk, composed of what looked like swirling, polished obsidian and vibrant jade, reached impossibly high into the sky, piercing the star-dusted velvet. Its branches, thick as mountains, spread out like a vast protective canopy, adorned with leaves that shimmered with every color imaginable, shifting and dancing even in the still air. And at the very heart of this magnificent tree, at its core, was a soft golden light, pulsing in perfect synchronicity with the beat that now enveloped Elara. The shimmering strand led directly to the base of this living marvel. As Elara stepped off the strand onto the island, the ground felt strangely alive, humming with magic. The air was warm, scented not just with lilies, but with something richer, deeper, the fragrance of creation, of ancient life. The golden light from the tree's heart pulsed, casting dancing shadows that seemed to tell stories of the world's dawn. This was it. The source of the beat. The heart of the wood, perhaps, or something even greater. She had reached a significant threshold, a place brimming with raw magic, a place where the veil between worlds felt thin and permeable. Elara looked up, her neck craning to take in the sheer scale of the tree. It felt both ancient and eternally young, a monument to the world's hidden power. The golden light within beckoned, promising answers, promising understanding. Her journey had led her here, to the threshold of an unimaginable secret. The questions that had spurred her from Whisperwind now felt within reach, tantalizingly close. She took a step towards the glowing heart of the colossal tree, her own heart thrumming with anticipation, ready for whatever wonders or challenges lay within. Her first step across the threshold was not onto solid ground, but into a current of liquid gold light. It swirled around her feet, warm and tingling, 1,000 tiny whispers buzzing against her skin. The air inside hummed with an ancient song, a melody woven from starlight and earth dreams, a sound that vibrated not just in her ears, but deep in her bones. The colossal trunk, from the outside a majestic, rough-barked titan, was transformed within. She stood in a vast, spiraling chamber, its walls shimmering with an inner luminescence, as if the wood itself were made of polished amber, infused with trapped sunlight. There were no branches here, no leaves, only an endless upward sweep of glowing living material, patterned with intricate organic veins that pulsed with a soft rhythmic beat, like the slow, deep breath of a sleeping giant. Golden motes of light, like tiny, benevolent fireflies, drifted lazily through the immense space, occasionally brushing against her cheek with a sensation like warm pollen. The scent was intoxicating, not of bark or sap, but of fresh rain on moss, sun-warmed honey, and something else, something indefinably ancient and pure, like the memory of the first dawn. As Elara ventured deeper, the golden light grew brighter, painting the swirling walls with dancing shadows that seemed to tell stories without words. She felt utterly weightless, as if the very air supported her, urging her onward. The ground beneath her feet was smooth and warm, a seamless continuation of the tree's inner skin, gently sloped upwards, inviting her to ascend. There were no paths, no stairs, just a grand organic expanse that seemed to curve into infinity above and below. She gazed upwards, her head craned back, marveling at the sheer scale. The ceiling was lost in a blinding brilliance, suggesting the tree reached not just to the sky but beyond it. It was a cathedral not built by hands but grown by the very essence of creation, a nexus where the earth met the stars. Each pulse of light, each gentle hum, resonated with the whispers she had heard in Whisperwind, not just echoes, but the very source of them, amplified and clear. It was the world's quiet heart, beating with a rhythm she now understood she had been seeking her entire life. Then from the heart of the upward swirling light, a form began to coalesce. It was not solid, but woven from the very essence of the golden motes, shimmering like heat haze over a summer field. Slowly, delicately, it resolved into the figure of a woman, tall and slender, with hair like spun moonlight, and eyes that held the depth of ancient forests at dusk. Her raiment was not cloth, but trailing tendrils of luminous mist, adorned with tiny, blossoming lights that pulsed in time with the chamber's gentle rhythm. A soft, knowing smile graced her lips, and her presence was one of infinite patience and boundless wisdom. "Welcome, Elara of Whisperwind." Her voice resonated, not from her lips, but from the very air around them, a sound like wind chimes played by a gentle breeze. "You have heard the call, and you have answered. Few possess such clarity of spirit, such an attuned heart." Elara, momentarily awestruck, could only nod, her voice caught in her throat. She felt no fear, only a profound sense of recognition, as if she had always known this being, this place. "I am Lyra," the luminous being continued, extending a hand that glowed with a soft, inviting warmth. "I am the Echo Weaver, a manifestation of the heartwood of Athel, this sacred tree you now stand within. This is the wellspring of all living magic, the dream root from which every story, every spark of life in your world first bloomed." Elara finally found her voice, a mere whisper, amidst the grandeur. The whispers, they led me here. They were fading in whisper wind, Lyra. The magic feels thinner. Lyra's smile softened, tinged with a delicate sadness. Indeed, little listener, your senses do not deceive you. The heartwood, the very core of Athol, is troubled. For ages beyond counting, it has sung the world into being, nurtured its forests, painted its skies, and woven the tapestry of life and magic that binds all things. But a silence has begun to creep. A slow, encroaching shadow known as the Silent Blight. Elara frowned. The Silent Blight? What is it? It is not a force of malice or destruction, as many would understand evil, Lyra explained, her voice deepening with the gravity of her words. Rather, it is an absence, a creeping apathy, a forgetting. It began as a faint discord, a lost note in the heartwood's ancient song, deep within its roots. Over centuries, this discord has grown, slowly muting the vibrant energies that flow from here, dimming the world's magic and quieting the whispers of creation. It is a slow decay of spirit, a fading of memory and joy that threatens to turn. Lyra paused, her luminous eyes searching Elara's face. The whispers you heard, the fading magic you sensed, these are the symptoms. The heartwood is losing its song, its vibrant memory. And as it forgets, so too does the world outside. A chill, not of cold but of profound understanding, traced its way down Elara's spine. This was far greater than she had imagined. The simple fading of a few wisps of magic in her village was a symptom of a world-ending malaise. But why me? Elara asked, gesturing around at the vast ancient chamber. What can I do? I'm just a girl from a small village. Lyra chuckled softly, a sound like falling petals. Ah, Elara, you are much more than just a girl. You are a resonance seeker, born with an unparalleled sensitivity to the world's song. While others hear only the wind, you hear the breath of the mountains. While others see only shadows, you perceive the shifting currents of magic. Your heart is pure, unclouded by the distractions of power or ambition. You listen, truly listen to the whispers that... Lyra stepped closer, her form shimmering with intensified light, and Elara felt a surge of comforting energy flow through her. The Silent Blight cannot be fought with spells or swords, for it is not a physical enemy. It is a spiritual malady, a forgetting. To reawaken the heartwood's song, to remind it of the vibrant magic it once knew, we need to bring it a memory of pure, primordial light. A spark of the very dawn that first ignited Athol. And what is that? Elara asked, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and burgeoning purpose. It is known as the Sunspark Gem, Lyra revealed, her eyes gazing into the shimmering walls as if seeing distant visions. A crystal born from the first rays of Athel's sun, forged in the heart of a forgotten star, and gifted to the world in its infancy. It holds the pristine, unfading memory of light, a beacon of pure essence. For millennia, it rested in the luminous spire, a towering peak within the Sky Whisper Mountains, a place of ancient power now veiled by mists and silence. It is believed that the gem can reawaken even the deepest slumber rekindled. Elara imagined the Sky Whisper Mountains, a legendary range whispered about in old tales, said to touch the clouds themselves, perpetually shrouded in mysteries. It felt impossibly far, impossibly dangerous. How do I find it? And how can I, one person, bring it here? She questioned, a flicker of doubt clouding her resolve. Lyra's hand gently touched Elara's forehead, and a wave of calm washed over her. The path will reveal itself to a listening heart. The gem cannot be simply taken. It must be awakened by one who resonates with its purpose. Your journey will not be one of brute strength, but of quiet perseverance, of understanding, and of empathy for the world around you. You will need to travel through lands touched by the blight, lands where the whispers have grown fainter, and where hope itself sometimes dwindles. From the luminous folds of Lyra's ethereal raiment, a single, glowing orb, no bigger than Elara's thumb, detached itself and floated towards her. It pulsed with a soft inner light, like a tiny captured star. This is a seed of remembrance, Lyra explained. It holds a faint echo of the heartwood's purest song. It will not grant you power, but it will hum softly when you are near true magic, and it will warm when you are close to the path that leads to the Sunspark gem. It is a guide for your spirit, a reminder of the purpose that drives you. It will also protect you from the deepest silences of the blight, helping you to keep your own song clear. Elara carefully took the seed of remembrance. It felt warm and smooth against her palm, its light a steady, comforting pulse. The Sky Whisper Mountains lie far to the north, beyond the sunken marshes and through the whispering wastes, Lyra instructed, her voice painting a mental map in Elara's mind. The journey will be arduous. You will encounter not monstrous beasts, but the deeper challenges of the spirit, despair, apathy, and the illusions born of forgotten dreams. You must hold fast to your inner light, to your ability to listen to the faintest echoes of magic that still remain. There are ancient paths, known only to those who truly seek. Look for the glimmering stones, moss-covered markers that still hold a faint resonance of the heartwood's song. They will guide you through the initial stretches of the sunken marshes, leading you towards the ancient pilgrimage route that once led to the Sky Whisper Mountains. Be wary, for the marshlands themselves are thick with the blight, and the whispers there are often mournfully easily mistaken for lost hope. Once past the marshes you will enter the whispering wastes, a vast expanse where the blight has taken deeper root. Here the world itself seems to have forgotten its colors. The air is still, the land barren, and even the wind seems to hold its breath. It is a place of profound silence, where one's own thoughts can become one's greatest challenge. But even there, Elara, the faintest echoes of magic persist. Seek out the crystalline towers of Ethel, ancient spring-fed the crystalline. Finally you will reach the base of the Sky Whisper Mountains. The luminous spire, your ultimate destination, is hidden amidst a perpetual shroud of clouds and mist, guarded not by sentinels, but by the sheer indifference of time. Only a heart attuned to its purpose can perceive its true path. The seed of remembrance will guide your final ascent. Elara clutched the glowing seed, her mind reeling with the enormity of the task. Her simple quest to understand the fading magic in Whisperwind had blossomed into a mission to reawaken the very heart of the world. Doubt flickered, a tiny cold spark in her chest, but Lyra's serene gaze and the warm hum of the heartwood quickly quelled it. A profound sense of purpose, a deep-seated knowing that this was her destiny, settled within her. I will go, Elara affirmed, her voice stronger now, filled with a quiet resolve. I will find the Sunspark gem. Lyra smiled, a radiant burst of light that seemed to fill the entire chamber. I know you will, Resonance Seeker. The heartwood will sing with renewed hope as you journey. Remember, you are not alone. The spirit of Athel, the very life of the world, travels with you. Listen always. Trust your heart. And never forget the power of a single hopeful whisper. With a final gentle touch to Elara's shoulder, Lyra's form began to dissipate, slowly dissolving back into the swirling golden motes of light, her eyes remaining fixed on Elara with an expression of enduring trust until the very last shimmering particle vanished into the grand living walls of the heartwood. Elara stood alone once more, though the sense of solitude was now replaced by a profound connection to the ancient tree around her. The golden light seemed to embrace her, to infuse her with a renewed vitality. The seed of remembrance pulsed steadily in her hand, a warm, reassuring presence. She looked up at the spiraling expanse of the heartwood, no longer a mystery, but a friend, a sacred trust placed in her hands. Taking a deep breath, Elara turned and began her descent, the glowing inner walls guiding her back towards the shimmering threshold. Each step felt purposeful, each whisper of the tree a gentle encouragement. She carried with her not just a mission but a piece of the heartwood itself, a beacon for her own spirit. As she stepped back out into the twilight forest, the world seemed to hold its breath. The ancient trees of the whispering woods, their leaves rustling softly, seemed to acknowledge her, their shadows stretching long and deep in the dying light. The air, though still cool and crisp, now carried the faintest hint of the heartwood's song, a melody only she could discern. The setting sun painted the western sky in hues of fiery orange and deep violet, mirroring the momentous shift that had occurred within her. The colossal heartwood of Ethel stood silently behind her, its golden glow now muted by the encroaching night, a hidden sentinel watching over the world. But for Elara, it was no longer just a landmark. It was the sacred core of her purpose, the beginning of a journey that would take her across forgotten lands and through the very heart of Athel's fading magic. The path to the Sky Whisper Mountains lay ahead, a daunting expanse of challenge and discovery. Her adventure had truly begun. The path to the Sky Whisper Mountains lay ahead, a daunting expanse of challenge and discovery. Her adventure had truly begun. The first step was into the Whispering Woods, a place of ancient, gnarled trees whose branches interwove like the fingers of sleeping giants. Dappled sunlight struggled to pierce the thick canopy, painting shifting patterns on the mossy forest floor. Elara felt a tremor of apprehension, but the gentle thrumming of the heartwood's essence, nestled deep within her, was a warm, reassuring presence. She walked with a quiet determination, her small satchel bouncing softly against her side, filled with dried berries, a water skin, and a carefully wrapped piece of sunstone from her village, a small comfort from home. The woods were alive with hushed sounds, the rustle of unseen creatures, the drip of dew from broad leaves, and most unsettlingly, the soft, ceaseless murmuring that gave the woods their name. It wasn't the wind. It was a symphony of faint, half-formed words, doubts, and forgotten memories that seemed to swirl around her, seeking to disorient and deter. "Are you certain of your path?" a whisper seemed to ask, brushing against her ear. "The mountains are far, and the way is fraught with peril. Return to the familiar hearth." Elara paused, her heart quickening. She closed her eyes, focusing on the warmth within her. The heartwood's essence pulsed, a steady rhythm against the chaotic whispers. When she opened her eyes, a tiny luminous flicker danced before her, no larger than her thumb, shimmering with iridescent light. It hovered, then zipped forward a short distance, beckoning. "Hello?" Elara whispered, captivated. The light pulsed again, a chime-like note too soft for human ears, but which resonated in her spirit. It was Lyra, a glimmerwing, a spirit of the heartwood itself, drawn to Elara's purpose. Lyra was no ordinary moth. She was an echo of the forest's vibrant spirit, a tiny beacon of pure, ancient light. Her voice, when it came, was a series of musical tones that Elara somehow understood, as if Lyra sang directly into her soul. "The whispers seek to confuse, little one. Listen not to their doubts, but to the song of the true path." With Lyra as her guide, the woods became less menacing. Lyra, dancing ahead, revealed hidden pathways, illuminated treacherous routes, and even translated the gentle rustlings of the leaves into assurances. Elara learned to discern the true whispers of the forest, the ancient wisdom of the trees, the soft purr of a sleeping moss bear, the hurried scuttling of a berry beetle, from the disorienting murmurs. One afternoon they stumbled upon a glade of lost echoes where a mischievous gloom sprite had woven an illusion. The clearing appeared to be her very own village, her house, her parents calling to her. For a moment, her heart ached with longing, and she almost ran towards the familiar embrace. But Lyra darted forward, shining her tiny light directly into Elara's eyes, and Elara felt the heartwood's pulse within her grow stronger, cutting through the illusion. She saw the glade for what it was, a circle of gnarled, sad-looking trees, their leaves tinged with a faint grey, a testament to the fading magic. The gloom sprite, a shadowy wisp with glowing red eyes, hissed in frustration before dissipating. Elara realized then that her quest wasn't just about reaching a destination. It was about learning to see, to listen, and to trust the true magic that resided both within her and in the world around her. With Lyra's guidance, she navigated the Whispering Woods, her senses sharpening, her determination solidifying with each passing day. Beyond the woods, the landscape shifted dramatically, giving way to the sunken fens of Mire Light. A thick pearlescent mist hung low over the waterlogged ground, reflecting the eerie glow of luminous fungi that clung to gnarled roots and skeletal trees. The air here was heavy, damp, and strangely silent, save for the occasional mournful croak of an unseen fen creature. The fading magic was more palpable here. The colors were muted, the luminous fungi seemed to struggle to emit their light, and a pervasive sense of forgetfulness hung in the air, making Elara feel as if her own memories were just beyond her grasp. Lyra, too, seemed to struggle. Her light, usually so vibrant, was a dimmer, more subdued flicker in the fen's oppressive atmosphere. "The light here, it is drawn away, little one," Lyra sang, her tones less clear than before. "The essence of being, it struggles to hold." The fens were a treacherous maze of shifting bog paths and quicksand-like pools. Treacherous will-o'-the-wisp lights danced in the mist, luring the unwary deeper into the mire. Elara, guided by the heartwood's warmth, learned to read the subtle shifts in the ground, discerning solid ground from treacherous depths. The warmth within her also seemed to gently push back the sense of forgetfulness, allowing her to hold on to her purpose and her memories. One evening, they encountered a will-o-wisp, a beautiful weeping tree whose roots were slowly sinking into a deep bog. Its leaves, once a vibrant emerald, were now a dull, sickly yellow, and its faint, singing voice was a mere whisper of sorrow. The will-o-wisp, a guardian of ancient paths, was losing its very essence to the fading magic. Elara, feeling a pang of deep sympathy, placed her hand on its bark. The heartwood's essence surged through her, a gentle, golden wave of warmth. The will-o-wisp shivered, and for a moment, a faint blush of green returned to its leaves. Its song, though still weak, held a note of gratitude. It showed them a hidden, ancient path through the fens, a path of floating moss islands that shimmered faintly with its renewed energy. The journey through the fens was slow and arduous, a test of Elara's perseverance and empathy. She began to understand that the fading magic wasn't just a natural decay, it felt like something was actively consuming it, draining the life and vibrancy from the world. Lyra's occasional, fragmented whispers confirmed this growing dread, speaking of a deep silence that hungered. Leaving the fens behind, they ascended into the crags of the Startooth Peaks, a realm of jagged, snow-capped mountains that clawed at the sky. Freezing winds howled through the passes, biting at Elara's skin despite her thick cloak. Sparse, hardy vegetation clung precariously to the rocks, and glittering crystal formations poked from the ice, their light dulled by the pervasive chill. The air was thin and sharp, and every breath was a cold ache in her lungs. Here, the magic was not just fading, it was visibly diminished, almost petrified. Ancient ice griffins, once magnificent creatures of the sky, now huddled on craggy ledges, their feathers ruffled and dull, their eyes glassy with a deep weariness. Stone giants, guardians of the passes, stood frozen in ancient poses, their gray forms coated in millennia of rime, their vital earth magic almost entirely dormant. Lyra, now a very faint glow, struggled the most in this desolate realm. Her musical voice was now barely a whisper, often lost in the wind. "The cold is not of ice, little one," she sang, her light flickering precariously. "It is absence, the murmur of oblivion. It grows stronger here. It feeds on memory, on resonance, on the very idea of magic. It desires silence." Elara's heart seized with a cold dread. The murmur of oblivion. It was not a creature, but a pervasive force, a gaping maw of nothingness that sought to erase all that was vibrant and alive. She understood now. Her quest was not just to rekindle a flame, but to push back an encroaching void. The climbs were treacherous, the paths often obscured by blizzards or sheer ice. Elara relied on her inner strength, her growing connection to the heartwood's essence which radiated a comforting warmth against the bitter cold. She learned to use her intuition, placing her hands on seemingly solid rock faces and feeling for the subtle tremors that indicated a safe hold, or a hidden crevice. She passed by the slumbering stone giants, laying her hand on their ancient frozen skin, sending a silent prayer and a trickle of the heartwood's warmth into their slumbering forms. She felt a faint thrum in response, a spark of ancient life stirring. After weeks of arduous travel, they finally reached the highest plateau of the Sky Whisper Mountains. Before them, silhouetted against the pale, shimmering sky, stood the Ethereum Spire. It was a colossal tower of iridescent crystal, soaring into the heavens, its facets catching the dim light and refracting it into muted rainbows. Ancient runes etched into its base were now barely visible, their magical glow long extinguished. A profound, echoing silence emanated from the spire, a silence that felt heavier and more ancient than any Elara had ever known. This was it. The culmination of her journey. Lyra, now barely a visible spark, coalesced briefly on Elara's shoulder. "The voice of the world. It is here, little one," she whispered, her voice almost gone. "The heartwood is its heart. This is its song." Elara approached the base of the Ethereum Spire, her heart thrumming with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The air around the spire was thick with ancient power, dormant but not entirely gone. As she laid her hands on the cold, smooth crystal, the heartwood's essence within her surged, no longer a gentle thrum, but a vibrant song. A profound resonance echoed between her spirit and the spire. Images, feelings, and ancient whispers flooded her mind. She saw the world as it once was, vibrant and alive, its magic flowing freely. She saw the heartwood of Athel, a beacon of life, and the ethereum spire, its pure voice singing the world's song into being. Then, the vision shifted. She saw the murmur of oblivion, not as a creature, but as a vast, insatiable shadow, a gaping maw that slowly, relentlessly, consumed the world's vibrant song, replacing it with an ever-deepening silence. It was not evil, not malicious in the way a monster was. It was simply absence, and it was growing. The spire showed her the how. To rekindle the world's magic, she needed to become a conduit. She had to allow the pure, unwavering resonance of the heartwood, which now pulsed within her, to flow through her, through the ethereum spire, and sing out across the world. This song would not be a weapon against the murmur, but a pure, unyielding affirmation of life, of being, of magic itself. It would push back the encroaching silence, not by force, but by the sheer, undeniable presence of light and sound. But there was a risk. To do this, she would have to pour her own essence, her own life force, into the song. It would require complete empathy, perfect focus, and the willingness to give everything. Below the ethereum spire, the spire revealed, was the heart of the murmur's influence, the void chasm. This was where she must go, where the silence was deepest, to sing the world's song. Taking a deep breath, Elara found a hidden entrance near the spire's base, leading into a cavern of absolute, suffocating darkness. Even Lyra's faint glow was swallowed here, absorbed by the chilling absence. The cold here was not of ice, but of a profound, gnawing emptiness that sought to consume everything. As she descended, the whispers began again, not the disorienting murmurs of the woods, but insidious temptations. "Rest, little one," the void seemed to sigh. "Let go of your burdens. There is peace in silence, an end to all struggle. All paths lead to oblivion. Why fight it? Join the quietude." Visions flickered before her mind's eye. The fading light of her village, the despair on her parents' faces, the world slowly crumbling into dust. The murmur sought to break her will, to convince her that her quest was futile, that hope itself was an illusion. It tried to sap her energy, her memories, her very desire to obey. Elara stumbled, a wave of weariness washing over her. She felt her own essence begin to fray, her resolve waver. But then, she thought of the heartwood of Athel, radiant and strong. She remembered the resilience of the whispering woods, the quiet wisdom of the fens, the stark, enduring beauty of the star-toothed peaks. She clutched Lyra, now an almost imperceptible spark on her shoulder, a tangible link to life and light. She wouldn't fight the murmur with force. She would meet its absence with presence, its silence with song. Closing her eyes, Elara reached deep within herself, to the heartwood's essence, to the pure, unwavering light that had guided her since the beginning. She didn't try to push the murmur away. Instead, she opened her heart, allowing the song of creation, a symphony of pure, resonant energy, to flow through her. It was not a sound for ears, but a vibration felt in the very fabric of existence, a melody of light, life, and memory. As the song flowed from Elara, a gentle golden-green light emanated from her, pushing back the absolute darkness of the void chasm. The murmur recoiled, not in pain but in sheer overwhelming presence. It was not destroyed, for absence cannot truly be destroyed, but it was overwhelmed, unable to consume in the face of such potent, unwavering being. It began to shrink, to recede, withdrawing into the deepest, most forgotten recesses of the earth, its hunger for oblivion satiated by its own quietude, unable to touch the vibrant song. Above, the ethereum spire began to hum, a deep, resonant vibration that echoed across the sky-whisper mountains. Its dull crystals blazed with iridescent color, catching Elara's pure song and amplifying it, sending a wave of golden-green light washing out from the peaks, down into the valleys, across the world. The air thrummed with renewed energy. The silence that had plagued the mountains lifted, replaced by the soft whisper of the wind and the distant cries of awakening ice griffins. Lyra, now shining with renewed vigor, danced around Elara, a vibrant, joyous beacon. Exhausted but filled with a profound sense of peace, Elara slowly made her way out of the void chasm and down the winding paths of the Sky Whisper Mountains. The journey home was transformed. The ice griffins soared overhead, their feathers gleaming, their ancient cries echoing with newfound grace. The stone giants stirred, their forms shedding centuries of rhyme, their eyes glowing with a faint, earthy light. As she descended into the fens, the mist had thinned, and the luminous fungi pulsed with a brilliant, vibrant glow. The will-o'-wisp which had given them passage now stood tall and green, its leaves shimmering, its song a clear, sweet melody. The whispering woods, too, had changed. The disorienting murmurs were gone, replaced by the joyful rustle of leaves, the melodic chirping of birds, and the ancient, benevolent song of the trees themselves. The heartwood's essence within her, though still present, felt lighter, more integrated, a part of her very being. Finally, after many weeks, Alara emerged from the woods, back into the familiar clearing near her village. The colossal heartwood of Ethel stood silently behind her, but it was no longer muted by night. It pulsed with an inner golden light, brighter and more vibrant than she had ever seen it, a beacon of renewed life for the entire world. It seemed to acknowledge her, a silent, profound embrace, its ancient magic singing with gratitude. Alara returned to her village, tired but forever changed. She wasn't a queen or a sorceress, but she carried the world's renewed song within her, a quiet strength that made her see the magic in every dewdrop, hear it in every rustling leaf. She could now discern the world's song more clearly, a tapestry of interconnected life and wonder. The fading magic was gone, replaced by a vibrant, shimmering presence that infused every corner of Athel. The colors were brighter, the air smelled sweeter, and a quiet joy settled over the land. Alara, now a little older and infinitely wiser, often sat beneath the gentle shade of the heartwood, listening to the world's song, knowing that even the smallest heart, when filled with courage and empathy, could rekindle the greatest magic. And sometimes, when the light was just right, a tiny iridescent flicker would dance near her, Lyra, the glimmering, a silent reminder that the magic was not just restored, but renewed, forever infused with the brave heart of a girl named Alara. And so, the world of Ethel dreamed on, vibrant and alive, cradled in the gentle embrace of its rekindled magic, a testament to the quiet strength that lay within.